Thank you, everybody, for
Hello.
showing up. And if you're watching the replay, I'm super excited to share my own personal friend and business coach who, gosh, we've been working together for about 3 years now. You really helping me organize my money, create a business model that has sustainable recurring revenue, fleshing out my entire framework, cheering me on as I do the heavy lift of building out that framework, and then sitting
Yes.
with me month after month, making sure that my cash flow, adjusting everything, allocating all the percentages. I feel so held and so nourished. So I'd like to share this amazing resource, Megan Hale and her Dream Money. She is a Leo sun, Leo rising, and a fiery Aries moon, all fire and inspiration, but
Yes.
integrated. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And thanks everybody for joining us. I'm really excited for us to talk about Dream Money, how we create it, and especially my unique approach for creating it, because I feel like it's a very holistic approach. And when we're talking about creating money shifts, a holistic approach is really, really key because money is robust. There's lots of different layers to it. And so we need to be approaching our money through a couple of different lenses for us to really create the shifts that we're wanting to. So super excited to be here with you.
Yay. Before we dive in, Megan, I'm super curious, with people that are here live, how do you feel about like your business money from like a scale from one where like, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't have enough, to five where I totally feel supported, I know where to allocate, to anywhere in between, from a scale of one at the lowest, five to the highest? As those answers come in. I know Cassandra said three, but that's very new. Can you tell me more, Cassandra? How has that shifted for you? And you can come on live. Oh, four. Mickey, that's great. Money feels really
Yes.
supported. You know where like how to allocate and save for taxes and save for investments and things like that in your business. Amazing. That's great. Um, Arletta, one, is it more of like a cash flow coming in? There's not enough cash flow to like feed the coffers, or is it more of like, I don't know what to do with the money once I have it there?
Jeff is a 3.5. I always love my half people.
3.75.
Yes, I
And
love it.
Rhonda, do you have any you've recently come into some like really great successful launches, and do you know how to sustain that money to feed into your business to, all right, this is so this is great, right? So Rhonda recently had her very first launch and she had a really successful launch, and so now she's
Amazing.
sitting on this pile of cash. And how do you allocate it to make sure that you're saving some, investing some, spending things to cover your expenses, as well as save for taxes and all those other things, debt, retirement, all that stuff? Oh, so Cassandra's already familiar with profit first. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yes, it's so good.
Megan, these are your people.
I know. I know. We're going to have a rich money conversation today. So I think where I want to start is one, we're here today because I'm actually starting a brand new company that's called Dream Money. And for the past 6 years, I have been helping helpers and healers and coaches and therapists really shift their relationship with money, step into more earning in their businesses in a more sustainable way, while also providing the financial systems that really allow us to feel supported and build money confidence. And the tools that I'm going to be showing you today have been tested across hundreds of different business models. And the thing that is very true for me and my body of work, whether we're talking about the money system side of things or we're talking about the business strategy and building your body of work side of things, is that I'm really, really good at creating frameworks that are very flexible and they adjust to fit you and your business. And I think a lot of times I'm working with a lot of intuitive people who are highly creative. And the idea of structure usually kind of makes them recoil a little bit of like, "Ew, don't put me in a box, don't contain me. It's going to feel very limiting." And this framework is loose structure. It's like supportive structure that gives you clarity on what we need to be striving for, but how you want this to look for you is 100% unique to you. And it's this potential, like this specific blend where my intuitives, they're like, oh my God, like Megan, what just happened to my world? This is amazing. So I'm so excited to introduce you to a couple of those pieces today. But one of the things that I have found, and it's been on my heart for a long time, is I want to be able to take the tools that I have created and turn them into an app that can reach millions more people. Understanding your revenue and understanding your money is a really critical piece for you having the financial support that you need, the financial success that you need, the financial abundance that you dream of. And so I want every single entrepreneur to have the tools that they need in order to step into that in a way that also feels safe. It feels intuitive, and it really takes a lot of the overwhelm that happens with money a lot of the times out of the picture. And so one of the other unique things that I bring to this conversation is that my background is not in finance. My background is in psychotherapy. And so the way that I approach all of this is very rooted in understanding our values, understanding our own definition of success, and also understanding our own attachment styles with money, our own inner world that we all have when it comes to how we think about money, what we believe about money, what we believe is possible for us based on our unique social identities. Like all of that stuff matters. So my goal is to raise enough capital to turn this tool that I'm going to be sharing with you today into an app. And so one of the things that we're going to be talking about is how you can actually get involved of supporting that mission and that vision so we can make these tools even more accessible to more people. And you'll hear me talk about what it means to become a funding dreamer, to really fund the development of this app, and also become a founding dreamer, who to be a founding member of this community, of this movement that we are going to build together. So I think where I would like to start, I talk about dream money now, but money has not felt dreamy for me the grand majority of my life. Okay. So I don't enter into this conversation of like, oh yeah, I've never had any problems with money. I've had lots of problems with money. And so it was actually only creating the tools that I have that really started to shift so much for me. And I'm really excited to share that with you today. And before we go any deeper, Leslie, I would also love to hear from you, like prior to our work, like what was your relationship with money? How did it feel for you? And how does it feel now?
Well, when we started working together like a few years ago, in the framework that you had with allocating the money, money just felt like really inconsistent and wild. Like I couldn't trust it, meaning like I would have these like windfalls after a launch of like all this money, but then I would like go through that. I already, I invested in a team a long time ago. So I always had Jeff there, my right hand person, working for me, and then always worrying about how I was going to cover his costs, and then
Yeah.
very much paying myself last. I had like no savings. I had too much in tax savings. It was
Yeah.
just like all over the place because I was just based in fear. And one of the most interesting things is that I hated spending the money. I just rather just see the money stay in my checking account and not do anything. Like I wasn't
Yes.
investing it. I was just kind of stuck in this
Hmm.
pattern. I was
Yeah.
lucky that I had money coming in, but it was definitely inconsistent. So I was
Yes.
just on this up and down roller coaster ride, and it was just like very dysregulating.
Oh, 100%. I'm so glad that you bring that up because, like, I call that kind of like the feast and famine cycle, right? And a lot of us are there for the
Mhm.
first few years of our businesses as we're trying to figure out, like, what does sustainable cash flow look like? Like,
Yeah.
how do we create that, right? And so that's a very, very normal experience. So if that is your experience currently, or that has been your experience, I want to normalize that right off the bat. It can take several years for us to really figure out what does this
Several
look like?
years. It took me like 15 years, Megan. What are we
Yes.
kidding?
Yes. Well, but that's like without the systems and without the
Yes.
structure, right? And that's like why the systems and structure, the earlier you can start integrating them into your business, the more it's going to set you up for success. And I think the other thing that you brought up that I think is really important is that when we are in this feast and famine cycle, like we're having these highs, we're having these lows, but the thing that we're really experiencing is the unpredictability, right? And it's really hard for our nervous systems to feel safe when there's that level of unpredictability. Now, here's the thing. Business, there's always going to be risk. There's always going to be unknowns. There's always going to be unpredictability, right? That's just the nature of being a business owner. But when we have a revenue plan, that is really going to help mitigate some of that unpredictability because you know what the game plan is. And a lot of us who are very intuitive, we're used to kind of like flexing and flowing with our seasons of inspiration, right? Like, oh, I want to launch this and I'm going to charge this for it. And it's like, we're just kind of rolling off of a cuff, right? And that's exactly how I operated my business for a long time. But doing that way should be the place, like that should be the fun money, not the stable money. Okay. Because as you all know, our inspiration goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. We go through seasons and cycles, right? And so we don't want our money to be relying on those cycles that are naturally shifting and flowing as we ebb and flow. So we want to have a solid, consistent foundation underneath us that then our intuition can go on top of that and create those rises and falls. And it doesn't have as much, there's not as much risk involved with that because the foundation is set, right? And that's like the thing that I really want to help my clients create is how can we create that stable foundation and then let your inspiration do the thing that it loves to do. But it, like you being inspired is not required for you to feel financially supported. Okay. That is my goal for all of like anybody who has a business. So excited to just bring that into the conversation. So where I want to start with all of this is DreamMoney is actually an acronym. And so the DREAM actually stands for a very specific type of money. I'm sure we are all familiar with where did my money go money. I am working way too hard money. My money just ran out money, like all of that kind of money, right? That's not what Dream Money is. And what I want to invite you into is I'm going to share this acronym. This is my framework for creating Dream Money, but ultimately it's up to you to define what Dream Money looks and feels like for you. Okay. So that's the biggest invitation I just kind of want you sitting with. Like when I think about Dream Money, like how does it feel? What does my life look like? What does my business look like? Right? Because this is going to be highly custom and personal to each of us. So Dream Money stands for the D is deliberate money. And deliberate means that we're being really intentional with what we're structuring our money to do and how we're earning it in a way that is supportive and honoring of our time and energy. Okay. That also means that we're really deliberately focused on revenue generating activities. We know what those activities are in our businesses, and we're intentionally dedicating time to those activities consistently. Okay, so there's a high level of deliberate intention behind this. The R stands for,
Sorry,
go ahead.
Megan, can I add a little example of the deliberate? So
Yes.
this really helps you in terms of figuring out your pricing and figuring out how many people you need to bring in instead of just saying, oh, I hope I bring 10 people into my next offer. It's like if you know that you need for this deliberate to bring X number of people at X number of cost, then you are going out and you're getting those people without feeling like you're salesy or anything. It's like you gotta flesh out that deliberate model to feel
Yes.
sustainable instead of just guessing. So I just wanted to add that example, Megan.
It's such a good ad, such a good ad. Especially because when we're really clear on the price points for our offers that are sustainable for us, because it's a huge key. Like this isn't, I'm just charging this because it feels good to charge this. Like I'm charging this because I need to charge this for the well-being of my business and those I'm here to support. But also your sales goal is a really important variable with all of this because that's going to determine your marketing strategy, right? So many times people come into my world, it's like, I just need a bigger audience. Bigger is not a goal. How are we going to measure that, right? How much of an audience do we really need to be building? Because that's going to directly impact the strategy for how we're going to do it. Okay. So dream money, it loves specificity because now it's like, I know how you need me to support you. Okay. And I'll go ahead and have just a little aside here. Specificity often scares and intimidates a lot of us because if we get really clear, what if it doesn't happen? Okay, so just want to normalize that. If the clarity piece is like, oh, I don't really want it to get clear because then if I'm vague, then it's going to mitigate this feeling of disappointment, right?
Yeah, that's
Totally shows
true.
up in money. So the R is all around reliable money. And this is really around stepping into recurring revenue, which is going to come from your business model. But the other thing that shows up with reliable money is knowing that we are reliably showing up for our money. That speaks to reliable recurring revenue, which is going to come down to your business model. Okay. But this is also speaking about us showing up reliably for our money. All right. And this is more around the practice. And so many of us want to feel more confident with money, and we want to build more money mastery. And mastery is built through intimacy, knowing something well, right? We cannot build mastery with something we do not know. And so showing up reliably is going to help you know your money better. Okay. So the E in Dream Money is all around easeful money. And this can show up with how we make it. But I also am like in the camp of, I think, like this whole easeful earning conversation, it sets us up for a lot of disappointment because business is hard work. Okay. But it does not mean the ease cannot be part of the plan. All right. I'm super big on that. So easeful earning is really being grounded in your values, being grounded in your strengths, being grounded in a business model that really speaks to both of those things, right? And also being clear on your messaging and what it is that you're selling and how to position it and all of those things. But the ease also comes from having money systems. Because if we want something to feel easeful, it has to feel simple and clear, right? And that's where money systems are going to come in to help create that for you, which we're going to talk about today. And then the A is all around abundant money. And usually this is the first thing that people say that they want. It's like, I just want more than enough money, right? So here's the thing about abundance. If our goal is to create more than enough, we first have to determine what enough is. That's the comparison, right? So we have to determine what enough is, so then we know how much more than enough is. Right. So we're going to talk about that today, just from a number sense. And it's really, really key that we take a holistic bird's eye view of like, what does enough money look like for me? Because a lot of us are not addressing all of our financial needs when we're asking ourselves that question. We're going to fix that today. Mm-hmm. And then the last piece of Dream Money is all around meaningful money. And this is probably my most favorite. Because when we're really anchored in revenue numbers, our revenue goals that are personally meaningful for us, they're based on our needs and our dreams. This creates such a deeper connection between the numbers you're pursuing and why. But this also flows in by baking a give back into your business. And I know Leslie has taken the 2% pledge. It's something that I encourage all my clients to do, of really intentionally giving back a percentage of your revenue to causes and organizations that you care about, candidates that you care about, that are really pushing for policy and reform that is shifting the world into a version that you want to see. When we have a give back baked into our business, this allows there to be so much more meaning between every single dollar that walks through your door, right? Because it's not just about you and your family, but it's about people's lives that you will touch with that money that you will likely never even meet. And that is some really, really cool stuff to step into. So I just shared a lot. Yeah. I'm gonna take a breath.
Yes, Megan, I love how, going through the Dream Money and what that really means. And like, as you were talking through each example, I was like kind of listing all of the mistakes, the past mistakes in my business before we started working together, how I was completely floundering in those places, right? We talked about the D, dependable money, and then, or deliberate money, and then the reliable money, about just like we started at the beginning, like how was it dysregulated, like feast or famine cycles, and then how we shifted our business model to have a baseline covered. But then you're also talking about the clarity, because we'll have these like pipe dreams, like, oh, I want to make $10,000 a month, I want to make $1 million a month, and they're just these arbitrary numbers. And you made me sit there, and me and Jeff are going through all of our like, how much money are we actually spending? I don't know. All those stupid subscriptions, all those monthly fees, all those little $5 paper cuts, right? Yeah. All of those things. And then coming back to even the M, and just feeling so supported now, knowing that I'm not over giving, because that tends to be one of my issues, is like, I just want to give to everybody. But then I'm like, okay, no, 2%, that's what I can afford this year. 2% of my revenue, not 2% of my profit, just goes straight out. And then also being able to have a little bit of profit and bonuses on the side, that is a really big incentive for my team, and also for myself, who, I have a jewelry habit. So
that you've rubbed off on me.
I use my business bonuses to like buy my nice jewelry, and it feels so good to
I
be able
know
to
it
buy
does.
that for myself. So I just
It
wanted to
does.
kind of like look at like both the beautiful intentions of the DREAM, but then also like where I've slipped into those valleys of the DREAM.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think, just a little aside on the 2% pledge, I want you to go and check it out on my website because 2%, like it might seem so low. And that's like usually people's like, gosh, just 2%. But it's your 2% plus my 2% plus Leslie's 2%. Like all of that adds up very, very quickly, right? And so the more of us who are doing just that 2%, it snowballs. And I have some numbers on that page just to kind of give you an idea of like what this can look like. But the other thing that comes in the 2% is that this is actually grounded in hundreds of businesses that I've supported over the years. Like, what's a sustainable give back? Because it's not just about being able to give big just once, it's about sustainable giving. Okay. So, super excited for you to go and check that out. So, now that we've kind of talked about the framework, I kind of want to get into the spreadsheets. And so, before I dive in, please know that one, I did not start off loving spreadsheets. I did not even open a spreadsheet ever until I started creating this framework. And if you happen to be spreadsheet adverse, a lot of people call me the spreadsheet whisperer because I help people who don't love spreadsheets learn to love them for the clarity it adds to your business. Okay. And everything that I'm going to do in here, if you choose to invest in the Dream Money Blueprint or the Dream Money Calculator, so the funding dreamers are going to invest in the full Dream Money Blueprint, which is the whole revenue planning system I'm going to show you. The founding dreamers are going to invest in just the Dream Money Calculator, which is going to help you determine what your enough number is. Okay. Every single entrepreneur needs to have their enough number, but also how much your business really needs to be earning to do more than enough, like, and really start funding some dreams. Okay. So the Dream Money Blueprint, that full revenue planning system is $997, and it's going to come with a 60-day program with me that I'm starting in January, where we're going to do more of the inner work associated with money. Okay. The Dream Money Calculator is $247. So super, super accessible. And you get lifetime access to a Facebook group with me with bi-weekly money calls. Okay.
That's awesome.
Lots of
So
support.
less than $1,000, you have an entire money blueprint plus access to the calculator for less than $1,000, and for less than $300, you get the calculator with access to the Facebook group to ask any questions that you may have. I mean, that's really affordable. And not only the money does double duty, because then also it goes to fund the production of your app so that this can reach millions of entrepreneurs who can
Yes.
feel like, I think when I think about like the bigger vision of when there are more, especially women entrepreneurs who already have this like, am I worthy enough? I don't know how to handle money, like all of these stupid stories that we're
I know.
told, that we start to embody. When we all feel like really supported in the money and know exactly how we're going to contribute, know how we're going to grow, know how all these decisions are now easily made because of the systems that you've set up, what would the world, the wealth activism part of the impact of more people using your tool be? Like, this is going to be just absolutely amazing. So thank you, Megan. So I'll be
I'm
quiet now.
so excited about, like, but that's the thing that gets me so excited, truly. Because I think
Yes.
oftentimes, one, most of us are not raised with a lot of financial education. We don't get it in school. We likely don't get it at home either.
Yeah.
And so then when we go and start businesses, it's like there's this gaping hole in our knowledge base that we become very aware of very quickly. If you're like most entrepreneurs I know, like, we got to figure this out. We got to figure this out. But then there's all of this, like, there's math trauma that can show up if that ever showed up for you in school. Like, I don't know numbers, I don't feel comfortable in numbers. Like, so many things can start to show up. But when more of us are feeling confident, having money conversations, knowing the language of money, it's really hard to put into words how this starts to ripple out in other areas of your life. Right? When you know how to have your financial house in order, there is a level of like fierce confidence of like, I got this shit figured out. I know how to take care of myself in this area. Okay. And so, but we need the tools, we need the frameworks, we need the conversations, we need the community for us to be able to create it. So, for all
Yes.
of you who might be listening to this in an audio format, we're getting ready to go into the spreadsheet section. And so I'm going to do my best to paint the visual picture for you without
Yes.
having to
We'll
look at a
describe
spreadsheet.
it.
But just know that there are going to be some tools for you to maybe just visually reference that will bring all this together for you.
And you can always catch the replay on YouTube if you want to see the video for the listeners here.
Yes. Okay. So where I want to start is, when we're talking about creating our dreams, okay, what most of us do is we have what I call a money mountain, where these are where all of our dreamy dreams live. Okay. And what most of us do is I'm like, I want to go there. How do I get to the top of this dream money mountain, right? Where all of my dreamy dreams are a reality. And for most of us, when we're looking at the top of this peak, we're like way down here at the very bottom of the mountain of like, how in the world am I going to scale this thing? Okay. And so oftentimes our money goals are so much bigger from where we currently are that they feel very overwhelming for our nervous system. And that's the thing that that's the thing that makes our dreams feel like a pipe dream. They don't feel grounded. They don't feel attainable because they're just so far from where we are. Okay. And so the first thing that I want to introduce is that if our goal is to ultimately get to the top of this mountain peak, our first step is getting to this first peak first. Okay. And the way that we get to this peak is really understanding what financial stability looks like for us. Because if we're trying to get here, if we have all of our needs met and covered, this is going to be a huge stepping stone for opening up more creativity, more capacity for other revenue generating ideas. Okay. And so a lot starts to happen when we create financial stability for ourselves from just a nervous system regulation place. And so instead of throwing spaghetti at the wall of oh my gosh, I'm in this place, I need to make money, I need to make money. A lot of us are going to be making those decisions in the short term moment, but they have a long-term impact on our business. So here's what I mean. You might cut your prices in half in a pinch. And you might have sold a 90-day offer or a 4-month offer. And now you got the money, but now you're delivering on that offer for 4 months at this reduced rate. Okay. And so I want us to really think about how can we get to this stable place in the most sustainable way possible? Because when we do this, this is the thing that allows us to get to this next peak with even more ease. Right? We're just adding a little bit more on. And from this place, now we're going from this peak all the way to the top with a lot more ease underneath us. Okay. So if our goal is to get to the top right here, where all of our dreamy dreams live, this actually needs to happen from a few key financial milestones to help us on our way there. Okay. And what I call this in my framework, well, let's have a Beyonce moment for a second, because one of the things that happens is that we might be making all the money that we want to be making, but if we're not doing it in a sustainable way that's also aligned with our values, we have this Beyonce moment where we just want to burn everything to the ground, right? And if you've seen Lemonade and you've seen this music video, it was a whole moment in pop culture. So I want to prevent us from having this Beyonce moment, even though I love Queen Bee. Okay. So I don't want you to have to burn everything down. And so the way that we do this is by really thinking of a stair-step approach that helps us create money momentum. Okay. So that first peak that allows us to create financial stability, I call that our good goal. Because when you reach this number, you're literally good. You are covered. All right. From this place, once we have financial stability, what's the next step? Well, now I want to start funding some dreams. What's even better than good? Right. And then from there, okay, I've funded all of my needs. I'm starting to fund some dreams, what would literally blow my mind. Okay. And that's the best goal. All right. So we go from good to better to best. But the magic happens is by really defining what good looks like for you, which is where our 7 key financial needs come in. Okay. That holistic approach that we really need to be considering. So when we're thinking about these 7 key needs, the first is that your personal bills are covered. This is primary, this is the number one goal out of all of them, because you have to be supported by your business. Okay. You have to be able to pay your mortgage or your rent and your utilities and gas and food, all of those things, right? The second key financial need is that your business expenses are covered, because your business also needs to be funded to continue doing its work in the world and continuing to support its people, right? And we all have our own lights that we have to keep on in our business by the softwares that we're using, et cetera, et cetera. The third key financial need is meaning that your taxes are covered. So a lot of times, a lot of us are unclear of how much do I truly need to be earning in order to make sure that I'm getting paid what I need to get paid, the business is getting paid what it's getting paid, and Uncle Sam is getting paid what he's going to get paid. Okay. And so when we're considering this from the get-go, this is what allows that to take care of itself. Okay. And so when tax time comes around, your tax money is sitting there, it's no big deal. Okay. And then if there's extra tax money, guess what? You just got a bonus. Yay. So our fourth key financial need is that we're also able to save. And this is one way that we're going to start to step into more than enough money, abundant money. So we have cash that's stacking up in the bank. Okay. But we can ask our business to set aside a specific portion of all of this. So we're intentionally saving all the time, not just when there's extra money laying around. Okay. That's like the worst way to save is when there's extra money laying around, because that doesn't really happen a whole lot. We have this way of just finding ways to use money. So we're going to cover this from the get-go. The fifth financial need is that we're able to invest. And what I mean with this is that we're able to reinvest back into the business. Okay. For every single person here, I would imagine you're much like me, where I know a lot of things about business these days, but that is not how it started. Right. And that meant that I had to hire coaches. I needed to buy courses, all of those things. And so each of us are going to have to reinvest back into our business every single year. However, not a lot of us are clear on how much of our money we should be reinvesting, because this can get quite high quite easily, because there's a lot of amazing people doing amazing work in the world, right? Like, I want to buy that, I want to buy that, I want to buy that,
Yes.
etc. Okay. So we need to think about this from a lens of sustainability. The next key financial need is that we're also able to hire. I would imagine when we think about Dream Money and what our future looks like, we don't envision continuing to do everything on our own forever, right? So being able to hire a team, and again, understanding what does a sustainable team margin look like for you? How much should you be spending on team? How much can you afford to pay your people, where it's not starting to put undue financial stress and pressure on you to keep earning more money just to pay your people. And literally that's when your pay typically goes to the bottom of the list. Okay. And I've lived that and breathed that myself. So it's very, very common, especially when you operate your business on high integrity and you care about your people. You're like, I'm going to prioritize my team above all costs. Right. Yeah. So we need to understand what a sustainable team margin looks like for us. And then lastly, our last key financial need is that we're able to give. And this is the thing that's really going to connect us with our money, with a larger purpose, a larger ripple effect in the world. Okay. So these are our 7 key needs. So when we're thinking about your good goal, this is not just you getting paid what you need to get paid and your business getting paid what it needs to get paid. We have all of these other needs that we need to consider if we want to step into a place of like, I have more than enough money. I'm good. I'm covered.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a quick comment, because there's a lot of my clients, they're at that kind of precipice where they're not exactly bringing in enough money, but they desperately need help. Like, hiring somebody at this moment in time is really going to be able to support them, help them make more money, and like do all of the big growth things. And so, when you're looking at these, like getting into that first peak of the mountain, but you're like basically struggling to meet your needs and get over like that first hump, like does your system support that kind of that gap? Because sometimes you need an assist to get to that next place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's also different strategies that we can employ too. So when we are stepping into hiring people for the first time, I think that you would be surprised just how much $500 a month can add some additional support. And if you're able to afford more, regardless of how much you're spending on team, the most important piece is what's going to have the biggest impact for you to feel supported. What are those tasks and how much will it cost for somebody to take those off of your plate? And if you can't afford for all of them to be off your plate, start moving in that direction. Maybe it's only 3 of those things, 3 of the 5, right? 4 of the 5, whatever that looks like, because even starting to move into more delegation is going to support you long term. And so there's all different ways that we can play with these numbers to give you a hiring budget, right? That will bring more support in your business, because that's how we're going to calculate your revenue goals, is based on your needs. Okay?
Where does debt fit in here?
I'm so glad that you asked. So let me kind of shift gears here and open up our spreadsheets for what all this looks like in action, if it will let me out of here. So when we're looking at this in a spreadsheet form, okay, so I'm going to open up the Dream Money Blueprint for a second. So I'm not going to go through all of this right now because it's a lot and this is a whole system. But what I want to point you to is over here under our GBB margins. These are stand for your good, better, best margins. Okay. We have our profit share, which acts as your savings. Okay. That's the primary goal of this. And they'll offer some distributions for you throughout the year. And it will also offer team bonuses at the end of the year. Okay. So there's
Yay.
included in the full Dream Money blueprint, we have your profit share plan, which is a brand new training that I've added. I'm super excited for everybody to get access to that. Okay. We also have your taxes. So your tax needs are covered. We also have your business expenses covered, right? We also have your team costs covered. We have your investing or reinvesting back into the business. We have your give back. You'll notice that's at 2%, right? That represents the 2% pledge. And then we also have our personal pay, the most important. And then lastly, we have a debt payback / gold. Okay. And what this key need is that if we're currently paying back a business debt, or even personal debt, I have clients use this for different reasons, we're going to create a specific need for that, because this is going to be a primary goal for a lot of entrepreneurs when we start talking about your money motivators. And your money motivators are like, why are you motivated to earn more money, right? And debt, there's 4 different orientations that I walk people through for how to clarify what's motivating you to earn money based on your transgenerational money story. And being debt free or paying down debt is one of those core motivators. Okay. And so we're going to put that here. But if you don't have debt, then the gold is your long term investments. Okay. So think retirement planning. Okay. So these are all of our needs right here. But the cool thing is now we're going to add in the margin piece. Okay.
Yeah.
So
are these my margins?
No,
like,
these are dreamy margins.
Team looks high.
No, team is actually low. Team is actually so
great.
when we're looking at team. So keep in mind inside of both the Dream Money calculator and the Dream Money blueprint. Okay, I have recommendations for what these margins should look like. Okay, so I'm going to pop onto the sheet. I just want you to know it's probably going to be overwhelming. You're like, oh my God, this is a lot of detail. But I want you to know that there is a lot of detail, okay? Yes. Because I want you to feel supported. And so if you're a US based company, I also have Canada and UK based companies because your tax system is a little bit different than the US. But in the US, okay, depending on how much revenue you're earning, okay, that's the first place you're going to orient on this sheet. How much revenue are you earning? Here's the recommended margins that I have for you. Okay. And you'll notice that our team margin, right, is staying about 20% across the board, except we're in this first bracket because the grand majority, there's not a lot of revenue to disperse here in the under 100K. Okay. So the grand majority of that needs to be coming to you. It has to. If we look at this on a monthly basis, right, that's only paying you like a little over $3,100 a month. Right? Which probably still is not enough for your desired salary. Okay. But I still want you to know, like we still need to be allocating some in the team direction. So you are not doing everything on your own. Okay. So if we were to look, and this is just an example for this business, let's say it's earning $7K a month. Mm-hmm. This is how this money would look behind the scenes. Okay. Of what I would recommend you starting with. All right.
So for those who are listening, we're looking at a spreadsheet right now that has US recommended margins depending on income brackets that you might be revenue brackets that you might be generating in your business. And the margins that Megan is talking about are the percentage allocations according to each of the 7 or 8 metrics if we want to add debt and gold. So your profit sharing savings, like how much percentage of every dollar that comes in, your tax, your business expenses. So these are some like wonderful margins or percentages on how we should be thinking about allocating our money in our revenue for every dollar that comes in.
Yes. And so what I typically recommend when it comes to our team margin, we really want this to be between 20 to 25%. Okay. So closer it can be to 20%, the more sustainable this is going to be for your business long term. But I'll go ahead and tell you, like, this is the battle that I have right now. It's like, even keeping it like between like at 25% when you're at a growth edge, because you know where you're going. So you're stacking your team to help you get to that next milestone, right? Yeah. It's like my team margin right now is at 26%. Okay. So it's a little bit over what I would recommend, but 20 to 25, that's our sweet spot. That's our sweet spot. Okay. And so I'm over that by 1%. I've been over that by 10% in the past. Okay. And that 10%, you are going to feel it. You're going to feel it.
That's so where, if it's part of your values though, right? Like, cause you and I have had this discussion, and you know, my business is team heavy just because there's just so much integrity in what I want to do. And also I have a family and I don't want to be I can't be doing all of the other things. And so
Hmm.
I do really invest in like in equitable pay and wanting to have a
Yes.
full team to support me. So that percentage for me is, I know we're working on getting that margin down by bringing up our revenue. But times are lean right now in the online business world. And
Yes.
don't take it personally. It was just like we're just adjusting right now until things start to stabilize. But
Yes. But I'll
closer
also
to
say
yeah.
too, right? Like even understanding margins, keep in mind these are recommendations. And even at the top, I say these are just starting places. Okay. Because every entrepreneur is going to have their unique needs. And this is where the customization comes in. Because for Leslie, for instance, right? She prefers to have a higher team margin and let's say a lower investment allocation or lower person, like she's going to
Mhm.
borrow that money from somewhere else to have this margin be higher. But that's an intentional decision that she's making, and she understands the cost benefit analysis of that decision.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's such a more deliberate choice for her. It's a more well informed choice for her. And so that way, like over the, like, this next year, it's like, gosh, like I just don't have that much money to invest. And it's like, yes. And that's because like we're putting this money in your team because that's the value, right? And so if we want to shift that value, or we can make adjustments from here, but it's really making these conscious choices that is so incredibly key for building your own financial confidence and how
Yeah.
you're running your business. Okay.
Rhonda asked a question. Does team include CPAs, lawyers, and external consultants?
Yes. So on your business expenses sheet, okay, so let me back up and I'll go through this. So the first step that we're going to do, right, is we have to calculate your good, better, best goals, because in order to build a revenue plan, we need to know how much money your business needs to make in order to fund your needs and dreams. Okay. We are not saying, I just want to make six figures. Six figures is not a number. We're not saying I need to make seven figures. That's also not a number, right? So I want to pull you away from guessing how much you need to earn to knowing how much you need to earn based on your needs and dreams. Okay. And that's exactly what this calculator does. And in order for us to activate this calculator, we have to clarify these four numbers right here. Okay. These are going to clarify your needs. How much do you need your business to be paying you on a monthly basis? How much do you currently invest in your business? Okay. Because we all have programs that we've joined that we're paying on, coaches we've hired that we're paying on, whatever that looks like. How much are you currently investing in your business? Because this will also give us a baseline for what this margin, this percentage might need to look like for you. Okay. We also need to know how much it's costing you to run your team. So we can know, like, this will calculate exactly how much the business needs to be earning for it to support a healthy margin in team. And if this number is super high, 35%, right, we have some decisions to make at that point. Do you want to keep this margin high and we can borrow it from other places? That's totally fine. Or do we want to shift this margin? And that's going to mean we're going to have to let go of some team. Okay. Those are hard decisions for every single business owner. All right. And then we also have to determine how much it's costing you to run your business every single month. Okay. Huge financial need. And so in order to do that, we're actually going to do that on these first two sheets here. And keep in mind, whether you invest in the Dream Money Blueprint or the Dream Money Calculator, you get these three sheets. You also get this pre-GBB sheet here, which doesn't fund all of these key needs, but it funds the most important four and starts moving you in that direction. Okay, so there's ways for us to scale this down. And the Dream Money Calculator will also include the recommended margins for you, because I want you thinking in terms of margins instead of just money. Okay. So over here on our business expenses, what we have to determine is how much is actually costing you to run your business. Okay. So this is basically your budget. What all are you currently paying for? And this exercise is highly clarifying, because a lot of times we open up our accounts and we notice we're paying for things that we're not even using. Well, let's call that money back to you so you can reallocate that in other ways. Okay. So if you've ever read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, I call this the KonMariing your money method. Because we're just like, if this is not going in helpful places, let's cancel that subscription and call it back in. Okay. So we're going to look at your monthly expenses. We'll also look at your yearly expenses, because usually a lot of us get a little bit of a deal. If we pay for things on a yearly basis, we get 1 or 2 months free. Okay. And so we want to include those expenses as well. And then we are also going to include what I call wiggle room, because I am not like a Dave Ramsey fan at all. I don't believe in like budgeting down to the penny and nickeling and diming yourselves over every single purchase. I also don't agree about skipping your latte, right? Like no one's going to become a millionaire by skipping some of their favorite things. Okay. that bring you joy. So I'm really big on having extra spacious money. And so we can actually build that in when we're calculating these numbers. Okay. And this number is going to depend on what your spending habits are and also what feels spacious to you. The thing that helps this number come into focus, though, is really understanding, okay, well, after my investments are paid, for instance, and after my team members are paid, right? What else do I spend money on that's not already accounted for? Okay. And that's what helps us really clarify, like, what does spacious money look like? So for instance, if you spend on some of those like tiny products across your feed, like $37 here, $37 there, right? 150 is going to be more than enough to cover some of those things, right? But if you're investing in like $400 courses every month, for instance, we probably need to add this into your investments. Let's be more intentional about that. Okay. So we calculate what your total investments are, right? And then we also go through your team. So to answer Rhonda's questions, we have our project-based employees. So people we're just paying for one-off projects. And that's going to be kind of a yearly expense that we'll budget out. So we have a lawyer here for contracts, or a designer for a web page, or whatever that might look like. And then we also have our more integrated team members who are serving in our business on a regular basis. And so this calculator is going to help you determine what the monthly allocation is between your monthly and yearly team costs. Okay, and that's how we're going to calculate that number. And then of course we have to do the exact same thing over here in our personal expenses of like really looking at what's our monthly living costs and what are our yearly living costs. And so we'll calculate this number as well. And those are the numbers that we need in order to set laser tight revenue goals. Okay. And so just to show you the magic of this, I'm going to activate this calculator. Okay. So I'm going to go over here. And so let's say in this example, monthly business expenses, we have totaled those up at $757. I'm just going to hit enter, and that'll make that travel on over to that web page, that tab. I'm going to grab our team expenses over here. So I'm going to go down to this team margin and hit enter. We also have our investment expenses. So I'm going to grab that over here. And then we also have our personal expenses. So I'm just going to grab that from our personal expense sheet. Okay. And now what you're going to notice is that we have some numbers starting to populate, right? So this good goal, I want you to notice, we don't have any money motivators here. We don't have any dreams, because our good goal is just to make sure your needs are met. Okay. In order for us to calculate our better and best goals, we also have to determine what our dreams are. And so for this piece, we're going to have to fill out some additional numbers. Okay. And so I won't go through all of that just for brevity, because I'm looking at the time. But if we come over here, okay, this number down here is saying, okay, if you want to get paid this amount, right, per month from your business, this is actually how much the business needs to be earning in order to pay you what you need to be paid, right? To pay the business what it needs to be paid, to pay your team what it needs to be paid, investments, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Look at how beautiful that is. I mean, like, that's just beautiful. Like, that's just like magic in itself, Megan.
I know. I love it. I love it. But here's the magic though. Never in a million years would you be able to answer the question, how much revenue do you need to make this year? Never in a million years would you be able to say, I need to make $150,000, 726. That is a very specific number. Okay. So when we start mapping out your revenue plan, which is what all of these other sheets do, okay, we're going to price your offers so it earns this $150,000, $726 in revenue. Yeah. Okay. So having this clarity informs so much of your business. Okay. And this is step one that we do in both the Dream Money Blueprint and the Dream Money Calculator. All right. So the Dream Money Calculator is going to help you calculate your good, better, best goals. And you also understand your good, better, best margins. So you can see as you step into your better goal, how much team can you afford as the business is growing? How much more can you invest in the business as the business is growing? And all of those beautiful things. Okay. Because these margins will grow with you as your revenue grows. That's highly motivating for a lot of people. You'll also get a yearly breakdown over here, right? So look at like when we're making our best goal, well, I don't have anything allocated over there, but I want you to imagine that this number is way higher because we're funding more dreams. You can see how much more you're able to give as your business grows, right? That's highly, highly motivating for a lot of us. And you'll see the same thing with your team margin. you'll see a full-time like salary show up here. That's a really exciting thing for most business owners. Like, wow, I can afford to hire somebody full-time and pay them really well, right? Equitable pay. So many beautiful things happen with just this clarity alone. But for those of you who want to get started with just this clarity, that's where the founding members come in by purchasing the Dream Money calculator for $247. Okay. There's a self-paced course that comes with all of this that will walk you through how to fill out each of these spreadsheets, how to get clear on your money motivators, like your dreamy dreams, why you want what you want based on your transgenerational money story. So you're really pursuing things that are personally meaningful for you. It's not somebody else's dream. It's your dream. Okay. And for those of you who want to take it that next step and say, okay, Megan, I am so grateful that I have these goals, but how do I actually start mapping out the sales plan and revenue plan in order to reach them? That's where all of these other sheets in the blueprint start to come in. Okay, so it will not only help you map out the business model that can reach them with your price points, your sales goals for all of your offers. It'll also help you map out your sales calendar for the whole year of what you're selling and when. It'll also help you track all of your real revenue as it's coming in, as well as allocating it every 2 weeks. So your money is intentionally going towards your needs and your dreams in all of these ways, right, that we set with managing our margins. So I'm so excited to get these tools out in a bigger way. And the thing that I love so much about this community driven launch right now is a lot of people who are starting apps, they have an idea, but not a product. I have a product in its current spreadsheet form to help integrate these tools into your business right away. So it can help you start building financial confidence right away and also help you earn more money, because what we track tends to grow.
Yes.
Okay. So I would love to invite you to become a funding dreamer and join me for the full blueprint for $997, plus get access to our bi-weekly calls that are starting in October and that I'm committed to running in through May 2024. Okay. So bi-weekly calls, you can come ask me a question about anything you want. We're going to talk about money. I want to normalize money conversations as part of women and marginalized people in business. Like, we need to be having these conversations. Okay.
Yeah.
Plus the 60-day program that starts in January and February. So much value here for my funding dreamers and my founding dreamers. For just $247, you get this financial clarity of your good, better, best goals and your margins. So you know what you're striving for and why, right? And you'll also be able to join me for those bi-weekly calls starting in October all the way through May 2024 and be a founding member of this movement that we're leading, really empowering more entrepreneurs to create financial confidence and mastery for all the beautiful shifts it creates in their lives and businesses.
Thank you so much, Megan, for sharing this powerful tool. And there's a comment from Arletta, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people who are also feeling this when we start to the emotions that show up that block us from like really looking at our money and spending time with it. What can you offer in terms of for people who are at that place? Because I can imagine a lot of my listeners would also feel exactly in this way, that
Yeah.
overwhelm and that fear.
So the overwhelm that you're feeling is truth. It's truth. And truth sometimes feels really hard to receive, right? When we're looking at things in black and white like this, you're like, holy shit, I have to earn how much? Have to earn how much? How am I going to earn that much? Okay. And when we don't have the how yet, that's a lot of what's creating the overwhelm, right? And so mapping out the how will start to dissolve all of that greatly. But the other thing that I want to mention for those of you who are feeling really activated right now, if we walk out this door and we never come back to this work, nothing shifts when it comes to money. If you want to step into a relationship with money where you feel confident and supported and nourished and safe, it happens by staying in the room. It happens through a consistent money practice. And that's what this tool does. That's what this community does. Okay. When I first created all of this and I was looking at these numbers, I felt the exact same way, completely overwhelmed. How in the world? How in the world? Okay. So keep in mind that pre-GBB goals also might be where you need to live, because we can scale this back. Okay. We can scale this back. So instead of funding all of those needs, let's just talk about the first 4. Let's start moving in that direction, right? Because money also has to feel doable and manageable in your body, especially when you start talking about price points. So there are so many ways for us to adjust all of this. So it doesn't mean that it feels comfortable, right? But there'll be that part of you, it's like, takes that deep breath. It's like, okay, I can focus on just this piece. Okay. And it's those little micro steps that start to amplify over time. Start to amplify over time. So the 60-day program I'm leading in January, month one is just understanding your personal dynamics with money, what you've been taught to believe, what we are holding on to around our own relationship with money, our own beliefs, the own representation that we all have. Like there's so much here. Okay. But month two is starting to build a 30-day practice with money so we can stay in the room, because that is what is going to shift things, with the added benefit of community and me as a mentor who's been there, right? You don't have to do this work alone. And it's important we don't do this work alone. So if any of you are listening to this or you're watching this, you're like, I'm feeling activated. I know what that feels like. I know what that feels like. But for this to shift, we have to look at truth. Freedom follows truth, even if it's uncomfortable to receive the first time we see it.
Yeah.
And the willingness to stay in the room.
Hmm. When we have this truth and the kind of the overwhelm of the truth, right, is we can thank that kind of overwhelm for bringing us the awareness. And now that we can make better decisions with our new understanding. And that's exactly why we do this together, in community, because we've all been there, like just absolutely struggling and not knowing. And we get there in every single moment. Like Megan's making me redo my 2-year-old money map because like things have shifted. And it's
Yes.
something that is, we look at it every single day, every single month, constantly shifting and reshifting things, because month to month is very, very different. And then like kind of with some of online businesses taking a little bit of like a downturn right now, this is happening across the board. Okay. So it's not, like we can still figure out different ways when we have this truth. So Megan, thank you for sharing this powerful dream money tool. And how can people sign up? How can they find you? How, like, to
Yes.
give us all those deets, and I'll make sure I put this all in the
So
comments and the show notes.
the easiest way, I'm just going to type it into the chat, is if you
Mhm.
go to dreammoney.io, that will link you to the Dream Money page where you can become a funding or founding dreamer. And the sooner you join, the more support you're going to get, because our live calls are starting next month. Okay. So I would absolutely love for you to be part of this movement that we're leading, but also to get access to these tools as they exist right now that have literally helped hundreds of people shift their relationship to money and shift into more earning, because what we track grows. So I'm so excited to have joined you today. And if you have any questions about anything, feel free to DM me on Instagram, right? I am
Yes.
totally available and accessible for any questions or comments or any of that. This is a safe space. There is no silly question. I can promise you that. I'm really here to help you win with money and in your business. And gosh, I mean, this tool has just shifted so much for me personally, but also for my clients.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Megan. Everybody, head on over to dreammoney.io if you're interested. And let's build some wealth.
Together. I love it. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. So good to see you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.